Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, wow. How are you guys doing so far? You're doing great?
Yes. Awesome.
Awesome. Hey, somebody saw some videos, I guess. Um, Perfect. Peter's been so kind and actually give me a lot of feedback on you guys, how great you guys are doing and how well you actually uh, come forward with this new method of Soulkey and how you guys interact with each other and how you do sessions already. So I'm pretty excited about saying hi to everyone and just wanting to share a couple of things. So it's the last day, huh? Already. How are you guys feeling today?
Tired.
Did Peter tell all of you about the 4-hour written exam later today?
No.
No, it's not going to happen. You see, all of you guys are really fortunate because the experiences you guys get is quite more profound than just a regular client, because you've been dragging everything out through 4 days, and that means you get glimpses of a little teeny tiny piece, but also at everything at the same time. So you get a chance to build it up throughout a lot of sessions where clients usually walk in the door, they get 3 hours maybe, and that's it. And it's very compressed and it's very intense. I do know this training is intense in all sort of ways, but you guys are fortunate because you've got a more broad view of everything. Plus, and I'm pretty sure Peter told you about this on the first day, you are here right now as students. You're not here as clients. So first priority on a training like this is for you guys to learn how to do this. And then secondary, to get the client experience that we do hope that everybody will get. Peter's a great guy. He's a close friend of mine, and I've known him for 7 years now, I think. And isn't that right? 7 years? Yeah, perfect. And the first time I met Peter was in Germany 7 years ago. And that was the largest training I ever did on Soulkey. Almost 80 people at the same place getting to know Soulkey. And there all the way in the back was this weird tall guy from Belgium walking around with a scarf on like that, like hovering, and barely said anything. But every time he did sessions, he was so into it and he was so deeply connected with his clients. And I'm like, that's interesting because that guy knows something. And what he knew already was the connection between you and your client is way more important than the entire manual. Manuals are just steps, and it's just like if everything else goes wrong, you can always look at the manual and do it step by step. But what's way more important is for you guys to connect with your clients and see what happens. There's one thing, well, there's a couple of things I want to mention today before we might do some Q&A stuff. A couple of things I want you guys to remember is at all times throughout the entire session, you are the guys leading and facilitating the session. That means you control the elements. You hold the remote and you can do pause whenever you want to. And if there's things you know that will benefit the client, you should go ahead and enforce that. Let's say something like the death scene, or if people really want to go to the council, like that's today. Well, if it's the conscious mind choosing to do something or choosing not to do something, it's wrong, because conscious mind, we don't actually pay attention to that because that is built upon human ego. And what we really want to do is the soul conscious and the soul ego, because it knows what's necessary. And I'm not sure if you guys watched some of the videos, if Peter told you about how I got into this business. But one of the things that I usually get a lot of silence from the audience, if I'm doing a talk in front of an audience and I'm talking about Soulkey, one of the biggest things that I want people to understand is if we talk about past lives and what is an advanced soul and what is a beginner soul or whatever, I usually ask the question, so you need to understand there's the human mind and you got your soul mind with you. And I want to make sure that you understand those two are different. So if we look at somebody like, and this is controversy right here, right now in front of you guys, if we look at somebody like Hitler from World War II, would you consider him an advanced soul or a newbie, like a beginner, totally amateur? What do you guys think? Hmm? Advanced, good. That means that Peter told you well, because the human mind would go, that's an amateur, what a bastard, what an asshole, and all of that. And I totally agree on that on a human level, because there's no way any of those actions can be justified. And of course not, because that would be crazy, right? But from 20 years of experience right now, I've had people who were the executioners, people who were the victims, and people were the ones who actually called the shot saying, well, these guys are getting killed right now. And all of them had severe trauma and severe religion, philosophy, and meaning against those actions. But going through a past life where they played a different role, they suddenly realized it has nothing to do with the human actions. It has to do, how do you advance as a soul and what kind of experience do you get? So what I usually do is, remember when we have conversations like this, remember, are you right now, this is human Martin, this is soul mind of Martin, right? So we need to know which one is doing the talking right now, because it's quite different. So at the same time, you guys are facing the most difficult clients and the most difficult experiences throughout this class that you guys are having with Peter Coopers right now. Why? Well, because one, you all here as students, you want to learn something. You want to be wiser. You want to get to know this tool. You want it underneath your skin, and you want to be able to provide experiences to a lot of people, hopefully, or maybe just gain knowledge and broaden your mind. At the same time, you also want to be the client and get the experiences. And number three, you also want to see clients and know how to interact and get the experience with clients. But first of all, it's all about the doing. It's all about the knowing. Why do we do this? What is the setup? What is the structure? And basically, the only thing you guys have to do every single time is, it's basically just a couple of things. One, well, have them to think about, what do they want to gain from the session? That's one thing, because it keeps the mind going and it opens up the spiritual mind. Two, you have to do an induction. That's basically what we need. And it's kind of like a different induction than just a regular hypnosis induction, because it's not about the deepening, it's more about the opening and the raise of high frequencies. That's basically what it is. And third thing, whatever happens, happens. So it's not about the stations in the manual, it's all about what actually happens at the locations, because if the client sees something different, go ahead and explore that, because it means something. It must mean something. Let's say that you enter the fireplace room, and we know this is a fact, nothing negative or nothing bad can happen from the moment you enter this world to the moment you exit it. Because you're safe, you got your guides with you, you got your facilitator with you, and there's all sorts of protection. But here comes the funny part. Sometimes some people do see something that will trick their mind, the human mind, let's say just inside the fireplace room. It can happen in a past life. It can happen in the life between life. It can happen all over. But mostly it's usually at the chairs when it comes to the fireplace room. I had several clients seeing something like a shadow coming up from the corner, thinking, oh my God, this is not good. And how can this be? Well, first of all, it's the conscious mind thinking. Because if something is dark, if something is not showing its face, if something seems a little bit mystique or whatever, the human mind usually goes, oh, this can't be good, because it's flee or flight mode. It's the Neanderthal part of the mind who thinks either we fight it or we need to escape it right away, because this might be painful, correct? So instead of doing all that, what if this was all a setup from your spiritual mind? What if this was a test? What if this was something where the spirit mind of you actually thought, well, let's make sure that Peter Coopers is ready for this experience. So we need him to pull himself together and make sure that he's actually ready for it. Because if the conscious mind is way too involved in this, he's not ready. But if he actually takes control and lets go of all of that, knowing that he can say yes and no the entire way through, well, whatever the black shadow is, it will transform into something different. Here's a couple of examples. I had a client actually recently who felt like she saw something that would be like a demon-like shadow. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. The first thing I shouldn't do would be going like, oh, like a real demon? If I say that out loud, it will manifest, right? So what I would do say is something like, how do you know it's a demon? And they go, well, I don't know, it looks like it. I'm like, aha. So beyond all of that, knowing that you're inside of your fireplace room and everything that enters your fireplace room means something to you, what do you think it is beyond that? And as we're thinking about it right now, that shadow might change, because if you just say, hi, what's your message? If you don't want to say anything right now, step aside because I got things to do, like taking control. What do you think happened to the shadow? It changed. It transformed into another spirit guide who actually said, thank you, you passed the test. And it wasn't something I applied to it, but it happened because me, as a facilitator, I trusted the process. And I got the experience knowing that nothing can be inside the fireplace room that would be negative or dangerous. But I do know that the conscious mind might see it that way. But I will never give it energy or any kind of attention, because where attention goes, energy flows. And if you bring negativity into the session with your client, negativity will be part of it. So you guys have to think in a very positive way. And I think, Peter, you wrote something to me about somebody actually had a similar experience throughout this class. And now you know how to deal with this. And we can at all times hold the remote and go pause right there and say, well, let's look at it from a distance. Let's see what this really is, because it might be a message. It might be somebody who just stops by to say hi. It might be someone who's connected with a past life. And if people are returning to the clinic to get a second session, it might be somebody who know them from the life between life. There's so many options, but it's always with a message. Nobody can enter, no matter, even if the client wants it to be that way. Nothing negative can enter that realm, because it's impossible. So if you guys know that, it changes the entire session and the experience for the client. So you'll just go, oh, that's awesome, because that person, no matter how they look, actually do have a message. So if you just right now imagine that they can, send whatever message through telepathy or whatever, what is the first thing that you notice? What is the first thing that pops up into your mind? What is the first thing you realize about this intervention right now? What is it that you know? So if you take control on behalf of your client and force it through, it will change the entire session and make sure that the rest of the session will become even more powerful. So that's information for you guys, right? Any questions so far?
No.
I'm sorry, this is how I am. When I get 2 minutes to speak, I will use 10. I'm sorry, that's how I am. so this is basically it. Another thing also that I wanted to emphasize is you guys need to give space to your clients, because I know in the very beginning, you guys are really being, let's say you honor the manual and you want to make sure you do everything right. If you do everything right, I want you to put down your manual and actually take a deep breath and pay attention to your client. the more you pay attention to your client, the more profound experience they will have, because it all happens within their mind. And as long as you're connected with them, you will get the same sort of experience. So as long as you know, well, to get there, we have to kind of like talk about a couple of details. We have to induce them. And in the very end, we have to make sure they leave on a good note and they feel comfortable leaving. That's the only two parameters you have to work in between. Everything that happens in between is basically impromptu, or whatever happens, happens. And when all that is said, I do have some kind of structure you might want to pay attention to. I always begin at the fireplace room. I always make sure they will be asked the question, do you want to step inside the healing portal? Because it makes it different on a physiological level. It makes sure they open up wide enough, and it makes them feel more comfortable. Then I usually explore that room, go to a past life, to the fireplace room once again, and then if it makes sense, I will go straight to the life between life and see what happens. When they're done with that, they will get the option of actually stepping into the fireplace room once more to get the healing portal, and then count them up and say, thanks for now, it was awesome, and all of that. That is my basic structure on 9 out of 10 sessions. Those sessions that's different are sessions that basically only takes place in the fireplace room, because life between life people like the council or spirit guides or soul group, they actually come and visit. And past life people or connection, they come and visit, and that's plenty, that's good enough. That's basically good enough. So expect nothing and gain everything. That's basically what I'm saying, because it's not about the steps. The only thing I would like to really emphasize when we do something like past life, the most important thing right there would be all the functions that is built into the death scene. And here's the thing, I want to share something with you guys. I've done approximately 8,000 or 9,000 sessions of Soulkey. And I think it's a case of maybe 10 or 15 cases where the client actually on a soul level didn't have to or didn't want to go through the death scene, because they knew they had to get back at a later point and finish it up, because as they were right now in the current life, they were not ready yet. And that makes sense. But the reason why we have to go through it, if let's say like this, we have a client, they walk into the office and we go, oh, I'm so excited on knowing how you're going to be killed, how you die in your past life. Yay. People go like, what the fuck is this about, right? Because it's kind of like morbid in a way. I do know that. And it's kind of like, ooh, that must be painful. But listen, it already happened. That death in a past life already happened. And if you're connected with your soul mind, a death is also a birth, is also an opening, and it's also an integration of the knowledge from that metaphysical life. So the death and the pain that's connected to it is a split second. It's not even a glimpse in your eye for a brief moment. That's how fast it is when you look at it from a soul perspective. From a conscious human perspective, ow, because who want to be in the middle of a war and get speared by a sword or a spike or whatever, or get shot at or something like that. But what really happens in most cases where, let's say, death is painful, we don't go through the death to experience how they get killed, because that is not the function. But people who actually go through it, they go, whoa, what a relief. I feel liberated. I feel free. I feel open. That's awesome. And my first own experience of being dead or die in a past life was me being shot straight in my face, Second World War, being a Jewish boy from a very young German soldier. And in the moment I felt it, I didn't feel the pain. I felt the impact and I felt the love right away. And I did feel like how it was with the blood down my face, but I didn't pay attention to it because it wasn't bad in a way. I felt compassion for the other soldier who was standing behind me, because if I was shot straight in my face, imagine what happens in the back. And he was standing right there. So in that moment, even though it was against everything that's me, I felt immediate passion and compassion and love for those two other people, because they had to experience it. I didn't. I just went through it and I said goodbye, but they had to stay with it. And that's kind of interesting. And that is the emotion that I do sense that most people actually do have when they go through the death scene. And here's the reason why we do the death scene, because you might go, well, why is it necessary at all? And if we talk about the silver thread or the silver cord that goes between you and that old physical body of yours, you might go, well, I don't want to cut it, because what if I lose it? You're always connected. So the silver cord is not about letting go and never go back to it. You can always go back if you want to, but the only reason why you want to go back to it is if the information that's still part of that life will make a difference in your current life. So what do happen when you go through the death scene, and I usually just count it through, like I kind of like feel its moment, and I just tell my clients something like this: in a moment you will take your last breath as, and I mention the name, and you will do that before or on the count of 1. And I just start counting. I'm not asking for permission. I'll do 5, 4, 3, deep breath, 2, 1, and just let go and just leave everything that's physiological within that body and just hover above your body, looking down, knowing you did well. What is the first thing you pay attention to when you look at your old body, now knowing what you know? And that's basically it. That is suggestion that I give to my client. And no matter how violent or how peaceful or how powerful that death scene might be, they just exit it, now knowing why they did everything well. And even though they failed in the past life, now they know what they could have done different. And that makes everything a success anyway. So the reason why we cut the silver cord is because of letting go of physiological trauma that is no longer part of the experience, because we don't need it, we don't want it. Let go of that. But at the same time, integration of all the knowledge. So everything that was kind of like kept in the past life as a golden nugget that you needed to know in this life right now, you grab it and you put it inside of you. And when the session is done, you go like, oh, I feel like I got something new. I got some more knowledge. I got some information. So that is why the silver cord is so important and it's so crucial to everything. And I do know sometimes there will be a conflict of the conscious mind going like, hey, I'm not sure I want to do this. And I do understand that, but that is where you have to step into character as a facilitator saying, I know, but this will be peaceful and powerful because it's all about the knowledge. And no client will argue if it's about the knowledge. If you go, well, you have to go through the death because I want you to feel the pain and really understand why. Well, we have a problem because that's not the purpose of it. So again, it's back to the, am I wearing my soul hat or my human hat? Human hat, no thank you. I don't want that kind of experience. Soul hat, yes, I need the information. You know that. Clients do not know that. That is why they need you. And a third thing I want to address to you guys is maybe it's the most important thing when we look at the class setup and you as a facilitator. You guys need to trust me on this. When you guys are done today, the way this class is structured, you do know everything you need to know to go outside and do a professional session of Soulkey. You know that. You know all the steps. You know how to stop it. You know how to start it. You know how to guide people. And that is good enough. The only thing we cannot give you, and that's usually the thing people feel a little bit insecure about, is we don't teach you experience. Experience is something you have after 10 clients. You got a certain amount of experience after you've seen 10 clients. When you've seen 100, you got way more experience. And the more experience you get, the more you just trust the process and lean back and just watch your client. The less clients you have, the more you might want to look at the manual. And I do understand that, and that's perfectly okay. But you have to understand that experience is not part of this class. It's something you have to do when you go on the outside of this amazing room you guys are sitting in right now called reality and life. So that is where you get the information. And I don't trust many people, but Peter would be one of the few people I do actually trust with my life in this world. And I know if he validates of all of you, when you step outside of this room you guys are in right now, that means you can do it. And I want all of you to remember at all times, it might be that we haven't met yet. Well, we have now, but it's not like I go, there you are, and I probably can't even pronounce your names because I'm Danish, my tongue is weird, and you guys are from Belgium and your tongues are weird, and that's it, right? But anyway, what's really important for you guys to know is we are available after this class. There's no way that if I get in touch with some of you and you email me saying, well, I do feel I missed this, or what would you do? I need this advice. And I would go, well, you're not my student. I don't care. Because Soulkey is my baby. It took me quite a while to put it together, and I'm still developing it. So it means a lot to me that you guys can do well, because basically in the very end, everything you do represents me. And it represents Peter, and it represents all your colleagues around the world. So if you need anything, let Peter know, let me know, send me an email. I might not answer within a day or two because I'm traveling all over the world. And if I'm in an airplane, there might not be Wi-Fi. Thank God for that. But we are available. Always send an email, give us a call, and we will be ready. Or join, we got a Soulkey group on Facebook. Join that, ask questions. You all got access to the Soulkey forum that's part of the Hypno Academy. Peter has access to it. Ask questions in the forum, because there's a lot of other therapists who want to add information because they have the experiences you're looking for. So that's, I think that is my, the main part of my power speech for you guys today. How are you guys doing so far?
Great. Awesome.
Awesome. Good. So what I want to know is there any questions about what you guys been through so far that you want to ask me? Because I'm available right now, so you can get to pick my brain if you, whoa, that was a weird hairdo, wasn't it? So you can get to pick my brain if you want to, and here we go.
Hi Peter, hi Martin, I have a question. Sorry. I already discussed it with Peter, but for me, I'm as I work as coach, that works very well. But when I'm a patient or a client, I'm struggling with is it real what I see, or is it fantasy for my own experience? And that's,
yeah.
I have to see in practice that it works. But for my own feeling, I'm not, yeah. Because when I'm sleeping, I see all the pictures.
Yeah.
This state, my conscience is still, maybe fantasizing all the pictures.
Can I tell you a secret?
What do you say?
I want to tell you a secret. Don't tell anyone. I still feel like that every time I do a session. Yeah. Why? Well, here's the thing. Maybe you want to ask yourself this question. Is it really because you doubt the experience, or is it because you want to make sure you get the full picture? Because that is really the question. Because if you start doubting the information, that means on a curious perspective that your subconscious and conscious mind want to make sure if there's more information that we need to know. So instead of building it up as a doubt or something that is working against you, think of it as something that will make sure that you will get all the details. Because you're in charge, right? And if you knew how many times I've been sitting with clients where they told me detailed information about the past lives, and I went like, that is not real. But that is me from my perspective. And there's one rule in this: never mix your own perspective with your clients, because you need to honor the client's information. If something pops up in your mind, it's something that needs to be there. So just accept it as it is, and then afterwards you can always go and check it out or whatever. Here's the thing I want to share with you guys. One of the weirdest past life regressions I ever did was with I think he was actually a professor from a university, and he wanted to disprove that past life were real. And I just, whatever, because I don't care. So we had this session, and his past life was like 100,000 years ago. Maybe not that long, but it was a long time ago. And he talked about a group of people who walked from Asia all the way up the Siberian desert, as we now know as Russia. And the further up they came, the more people died, but they got to settle. And basically what happened, I don't know, but it was so far away and it was so long time ago that there was no real language. So I kept asking his spirit mind about the details, because if I asked the person as who he was in the past life, it would just be like, sounds like that. And afterwards, with him, we actually went to Google and we checked it out. Is there any information? Is there any documentation that this happened? And interesting enough, all the documentation, all the scientists said this never happened. So we were kind of like, okay, so maybe it is false. But in spite of that, in spite of the conscious human knowledge, he gained something on a personal level that meant everything to him. So the emotion was the important thing, not the picture. It's all about what happens on the inside, not what you're looking at in the experience, okay? And here's the funny part, because there's a twist to it. 1 year later, we have like a magazine called Illustrated Science that is within the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. It's like a monthly magazine with science in it. This is how the brain works. This is how Mars will be colonized in 100 years or whatever. And the theme of that month was proof found in the Siberian desert. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I bought the magazine, I read it through, and it said 6 months ago, and that means 6 months after the session, scientists, a group of scientists actually found the proof in the Siberian desert that a group of people, approximately 300, at that time period that my client had told me 12 months ago, was walking up the Siberian desert. And that explains some of the evolution in Europe and how people moved across the world many thousand years ago. They found the proof, and they were not on the site until 6 months after our session. In my world, that is proof. And it makes my conscious mind go, yay, I told you so. But that's not the important part. I still go back to the experience with my client where he told me something feels right within me, an emotion happened, and I feel comfortable, and I know why I needed this experience, because it's all about that. So on the conscious level, we want all the proof. I can write 3 books with proof of past lives, but I don't have the time for it. And again, it's not about that, because that will take away the attention, because in my world, everything that I do is all about the client. I'm very scientific in my mind, but every time I do work with another human being, it's all about their experience, not about the science, okay? So those 2 worlds have to work together, not against each other. Did that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, that's correct. That's fine for me. So I can do a lot with that information. Thank you.
Perfect. Good. That was easy.
For you.
Anyone else? Really? No one?
Peter did well.
Good. I expected that, actually. So if somebody would complain about him, that would be, oh, that's weird. Peter's doing pretty well. And here's another thing. You guys are fortunate because of I don't have a lot of trainers, so I don't say, well, from all of my trainers, I do have a handful of very skilled trainers, and all of them have different aspects of life. The reason why you guys are very fortunate is because your trainer for the past 3 days, now the 4th day, is a very compassionate and passionate person who actually want you guys to succeed. And on top of that, that is one of the most connected and grounded people that I know. So that means he will actually teach everything from pure love to this tool. And I know that, and I appreciate that, and making sure that all of you guys will get the information you need, but not just as becoming little mini-me's, but actually becoming powerful facilitators of this with your personal skills involved. That is why Peter's a good friend to me, because I know he's not doing anything unless he really means it. So you guys should be honored for spending 4 days with Peter, because he's very passionate. And when you're learning from him, there will be a lot of areas where he will do this way better than I do, because he has a different approach. So I honor that. And so that is my endorsement for Peter in the background. And he didn't expect this, and I love to make him embarrassed just a little bit. So you guys, but I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about, especially in the end of the day. And I'm really much looking forward to see the pictures of you guys holding your certificates, making me proud that we got 9 amazing ambassadors who's going to conquer the world and show people that there's way more to life than politics and religion, but it's also about human and spiritual development. So you guys are going to be part of this army and this revolution, and I'm happy about it. And it doesn't matter about how many clients you guys are going to see. It happens about every single person that will change their view of life that you are connecting with. It's all about that. It's not about the quantity. It's all about the quality. So remember, you guys are now all connected. Use it, and use it for yourself also, because that's very important. Yeah? Hey. So are you guys sure there's no more questions?
I think it should help us when we could see more exercise, complete sessions. I think it's a good way to see the approach of the session.
Absolutely. And here's how I see it, because one thing is actually being the guy who invented it and yada, yada, yada. It's not about that. But to me, it's a huge, amazing privilege to be able to sit back in my chair and watch a client do the process almost by themselves, and have the privilege of sitting there watching them and getting their knowledge as part of my knowledge. Because I'm pretty sure that if not all of you, then almost every one of you had some insights and some profound experiences as being a client, and maybe also as a therapist throughout the past days. But imagine you could do this 3 times a week with different people, maybe even 6 times a week with different people. That is profound knowledge. And as a soul, as who you guys are right now, you will grow even more. So if you ever thought about something like this, that, oh, well, I feel like a beginner, I might be an amateur as a soul, you're absolutely wrong, because you wouldn't be sitting in the chairs you're sitting in right now if you were amateurs. You might think of it like that, but you're actually very much skilled and amazing people as a soul, because otherwise you wouldn't have picked this job of actually being able to help other people who need help. And that is a huge accomplishment. So congratulations, everyone. Finally, you found yourself. So go ahead and do something about it, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else before we have to get you guys going?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
It is good technology.
Great technology. I do have a problem with my very strong conscious mind, and so I need some reassurance. Is it true that when you start the session and you want to go to past life and it doesn't happen, you fireplace room, and then some other things happen, and they feel very valuable to the person, then it's okay. You don't have to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We don't have to do past lives. We don't have to do life between life. I would say 1/3 of all my clients, they have read the Michael Newton books about the council. So the conscious mind go like, hey, I want to see my council because all the answers are within the council. And that is not true. Those people usually just get a past life in a fireplace room and that's it. And they tell me that's good enough because they got everything they needed. So you need to trust that every time you give your client an option, let's say, so do you want to go to the past life right now, or do you want to stay in the chairs and talk with whoever shows up? If they say chairs and they keep avoiding the past life, they made the choice and it's okay. You don't have to force them through because everything happens for a reason. The most weird, crazy session that is my number one of all the weird stuff that happened, that is not people hovering in the chairs or rolling their eyes or black eyes or something like that. It's actually a young girl who came in and she spent 3 hours sitting in the chairs in the fireplace room talking to 3 dead horses, a dead dog, and 2 dead cats. And looking in hindsight right now, of course she did, because it was her animals. She was deeply connected on a spiritual level to those animals, and it meant everything to her from her childhood. So it makes sense. But me sitting right next to her, listening into 3 hours of them communicating, me doing nothing, that's kind of like, you know. So it's okay to have the doubt, but you have to remember every time you do have that thought, you need to do this. And then you need to think, well, it's all about the client. As long as you give them options and as long as you're not giving into their conscious, it's going to be okay. So back to the thing I said in the very beginning, expect nothing and gain everything. And that's on behalf of your clients. So it's okay. And if you twist it and flip it, thank God you have a conscious mind who wants to interfere and make sure you're doing okay. So instead of fighting it, praise it, thinking, conscious mind, could you please remind me about the time so I'm not losing track of time? Could you please remind me about asking these questions if I feel like I don't get any information? So give your conscious mind a couple of tasks and jobs throughout the session, and it will do that on a beautiful level. So making sure that you will get all the information. So cooperate instead of working against your conscious mind. All right?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. So on top of all of that, maybe you guys don't know it, but I'm gonna be in Holland in October. And I'm going to teach the Master Soulkey Training there if anybody's interested. I'll make sure that Peter can give you the information after the training. Since you're all students of Peter, you're not paying the initial price, but that is something different that I can give you guys of information afterwards. There's limited seats. I think half it is taken already, and we have 3 more classes coming up. This is number 1. We have 2 others in Holland coming up within a month. So there will be limited seats for that one, but that's the Master Soulkey. If you want any information on that, ask Peter after the training. He knows a lot about that, and it's going to be a way different dimension to it. It's not for everyone. It's only if you feel like you have a calling for it, but it's absolutely an amazing advantage if you want to do more with Soulkey. But you have to feel it. You have to get it underneath your skin before you make any decisions, because as I told you guys, it's not for everyone. But in spite of all that, that's the only tease I'm going to give you guys right now. I hope you all enjoy your sessions today, because if you haven't met the wall, well, Peter told me yesterday, like he wrote me like, several people face the wall today. We have a term we call, well, all students have to meet the wall throughout the training, thinking, I can't do this, I don't get it. Because that is the moment where you can flip your mind and then suddenly go from, I don't know anything to, is it this easy? And it seems like all of you got to that point. So today, remember, deep breath, connect with your clients, allow things to happen on a natural level and see what happens. Pay attention to time and get the full experience. Because remember, you're students. You're facing the most difficult clients today because your clients today is training to becoming a facilitator right now. So it's not a real client. So they know things, and real clients, when they walk in the door, they don't know anything about this technique. So they don't know what to ask you. So remember, enjoy today, because the biggest challenge you will get in the career of being a Soulkey therapist will be today. And that's it. And it's gonna be good anyway. So enjoy those moments and have fun with it. Remember, have fun always. Nothing is so serious. We can have a smile. So it's all about process. It's all about remembering human, soul. It's all about that. All right?
All right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. May I have one moment? Will you stay?
Of course you may.
Thank you. I'm just going to get something. Don't go. Don't go.
I will stay. All of us are curious, Martin.
Me too.
How she's running.
Oh.
Oh.
It seems only me are curious.
I think you can stand over there. Yeah, it's I go close.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Thank you very much. Whoa. But I'm a man who loves flowers, so I smell. Martin, they're real.
I know.
And these also for you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
So, what I will do, I see you in 3 weeks. It's God's Day, I think, 3rd, 4th, 5th of June. And
I bring you with me.
I do something with that, and definitely the roses I can dry.
Yeah.
You will get some roses from these lovely, amazing people.
Awesome.
Okay. So,
Do.
yeah, I have a smell. Good. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
And you see, this is what it's all about. Sharing your compassion and passion for what we do, and being able to share the knowledge and have great, wonderful moments. This is why I do what I do, is because of moments like this, where I'm looking at Peter growing and blossoming as a powerful teacher, and at the same time looking at 9 happy faces going like, I know something just happened. Something's changed your life within this past week. And that is beautiful, because you know what? If it could happen this week, it can happen next week too. So grow. And my final advice would be something I want you guys to remember. Perfect balance is perfect imbalance. Because if something is perfect balance, it means it's standing still. So perfect balance is perfect imbalance, making sure you have continuous movement in life so you keep developing. So remember, if you feel like, oh, everything is moving, it's because you're moving on. Remember that always.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So have fun today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. You too.
Yeah, well.
Have an awesome day today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.